Hello and welcome to Kingston Now. I'm Jimmy Buff. This week we're going to talk about a little-known issue facing immigrants in this country. It's called migratory mourning, and here to tell us what that is and what can be done about it is Gerry Harrington, Maria Elena Ferrar, and Monica Arias Miranda, the head of the Hispanic Coalition of New York. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, thanks.
Gerry, let's start with you because you brought this story to us. How did you get involved with this?
Well, Maria Elena actually brought it to my attention. We're both part of a common organization that actually has nothing to do with this, but she told me about it, and at first I thought this was interesting, but then when I learned more about it, I realized what a hugely, deeply emotional and sort of a profound issue this is for people who have moved. Sometimes people move because they want to, sometimes because they don't, and they may be very happy. What it is, it's a challenge of feeling separated from their original country, not quite knowing how to fit in, not quite knowing what to do about lots of circumstances. They could have been in a fairly high socioeconomic situation back home and then in a lower place now. There's a sense of loss, there's a sense of betrayal, there's a whole bunch of things that go on, and I'm speaking just sort of secondhand because I don't have this, but when I realized how deeply affecting this is to people, I said this is really a big issue.
Well, Maria Elena, let's talk about migratory mourning. What exactly is it?
Yeah, well, it's something that I could say that every person faced that challenge, but we are focused in the migratory collective because there are a lot of challenges happening at the same time. It's a mourning because there is a loss, as Gerry was explaining before. It's a loss, it's a separation, it's a missing of something, but there are many something happening at the same time. When we lost a familiar or some beloved one, we are very sad because we are losing that person, but it's just only thing that we need to deal, and it's very hard. But when we are talking about migration, we are talking about our family, our culture, our country, our language, our food, our childhood, all our history. So we need to re-identify ourselves to a new one being the same. So it is not so easy to do for everybody. So those feelings of losing and separations, that's what we call migratory mourning.
Now, as you mentioned, mourning most associated with like the death of a loved one.
Yeah.
How accurate, how similar are the feelings in this kind of mourning versus that kind of mourning? Is it as deep, the feelings?
Yes, it's deep, but it has another level of complication because it's not a total loss. I mean, your country is not dead, your family is not dead, but you can afford them. Or you are sometimes there, sometimes not there. So we are talking about a mourning that is multiple because of the many things, and that also is recurrent because that person is still there, or those things are still there, so they are coming and going all the time, and you don't know how to handle with that. And many times the way we work on that or trying to overcome that situation keep us acting maybe like child. Like a little child that I don't want to accept this, or maybe I want to impose my will or something like that. So we are handling something very, very, very complicated and very particular because there are not two people dealing in the same way with this.
Maria, are there identifiable symptoms that you can sort of categorize this as migratory mourning?
The symptoms, the most common symptom is just stress, because of course we are dealing with something that we don't identify at the very beginning, but we are feeling anxiety, we are feeling stress, we are feeling sad, we are not working properly, we are not, we can start showing different behaviors, but there is something that is not working. I was talking to Monica before coming here. It's like when you have mice in your house. You don't know what they are doing. But when suddenly you lost the power in your house because they were biting the wire, so you say, oh my God, we have something. And then is when you start looking at that. So sometimes something is not working well, but it depends on the case.
Monica, what is the Hispanic Coalition of New York? What is that organization?
We are a statewide organization, and we're a fairly new organization. We incorporated at the beginning of this year, but our focus is really on connecting the Latino community across the state. That's something that through my networking I see a need for it. We do have great organizations working within the Latino community, but our focus is on connecting and also on highlighting the positive achievements and contributions of the Latino community.
Does the Hispanic Coalition see this, the migratory mourning, as a big issue facing immigrants to the country?
You know what? Yes, I believe so. And for me specifically, when Maria Elena and Gerry called me earlier this year to talk about ways to collaborate, it just literally, it's like a light bulb goes off. And when Maria Elena was explaining, I just said, oh my God, I had that. It is just really, and actually we were talking about this earlier too. I don't even know how to explain it, but you know it. I came to this country when I was 13. I'm the oldest of 4, single mom. And I didn't have time to process all that information as a child. But looking at what migratory mourning is and how it affects you, I could be a poster child for migratory mourning, but that's not just me, that's across the spectrum for all immigrants. And we do have that loss of our country, our family. I mean, it completely, I so identify with it. And for us, we never talked about it. We didn't, one day, I'm from Costa Rica, we're in Costa Rica with my family. The next day, we are in the United States wearing coats and boots because we came in November. We had snow. We went to a completely different school. Everyone speaks English. We didn't know any English. So all these things were happening, but we never talked about it. We didn't address that as a family, and still, folks don't address that. But I can see now, listening to Maria Elena, and I attended one of the free talks, listening, and it brings you back, and I went through all that, but I didn't address it, or my mother or my sisters. So I can see how that affected me later on in life. My sisters and I, we turned out great, thank goodness. But it is something that's there, and it resonates with me personally. So I know that other immigrants, they share the same feeling. And so it's incredibly important. And to talk about it is extremely important. So as the Hispanic Coalition, we support the effort. And for us, anything we can do to spread the word and just share the information, that's what we're doing.
You're watching Kingston Now. More about the issue of migratory mourning when we return. Welcome back to Kingston Now. This week we're taking a look at an issue facing immigrants to America. It's called migratory mourning. And I say it's an issue facing immigrants to America because that's where we are, where the show is airing. But Maria Elena, you experienced yourself when you left Venezuela to go to Spain. Tell me about that.
Yes, and maybe some people could say, well, but it was easy because it was from Venezuela to Spain. It's very similar. It's not any similar. It was a shock, at least for me, because as Monica said before, I born in a very tropical country, and suddenly I have to face 4 seasons. And this is totally new. You saw that on the TVs, but you are not living on that. And even when we talk the same language, because we speak Spanish in Venezuela and we speak Spanish in Spain, it's a different Spanish. It's like sometimes Gerry say that the United States and the United Kingdom are divided by the same language because it's different. No? So that kind of difference apparently doesn't affect you too much when you are in your country. But when you are...
Oh, it does. If you got in a car right now and you drove 12 hours and didn't talk to anyone in the car, you'd step out and people would be speaking with a southern accent.
Yeah.
And it gets your attention, you know?
Yes.
So
yes.
I can understand a little bit.
You can live it. And yes, it's something that you really, of course, the person who is moving, who is changing or is transplanted to another country, feel it in a, let's say, more shocking way. But the people who are in that country is living the same migratory mourning. So we are talking about that the immigrants who came to the United States are facing this, but the American society is facing the same issue. just by the other side, because we are finding a new country, but the Americans are also rediscovering a new country. So at the very beginning, we are talking about the immigrants, but we wanted to work with the whole society, with the immigrants and also with the host society, because we are together in this.
Monica, we were saying in the commercial break and just before it that you identified so strongly with when you first discovered this issue of migratory mourning, and there was a name for what you were feeling.
Yes.
Is there a reception to the idea amongst the people who you deal with in the Hispanic Coalition? Do they say yes, or are people willing to acknowledge it? Is there any shame in acknowledging it?
I think that I have been, of course, the team at the Hispanic Coalition, it was the same thing. A light bulb went off for all of us. Yes, we identify with it. Within the community, I have been out there talking about it, and I don't necessarily get a feedback. I think Maria Elena has a little bit of more perspective on that based on some of the free talks that she's been doing, and maybe you would want to talk about that.
Well, it's amazing because what Monica said is amazing. When I talked about that to Gerry said, "Oh, that could be interesting." He said, "Like, could be, because it sounds like good." But when he was witnessing is a good word. when I talked to somebody who was a big migrant and say like, "Oh my God, I have it," he said, "Oh, this is a big issue." Because it happened with Monica, it happened with the people in Long Island, it happened almost with everybody. You talk about that, they say, "I didn't hear that before, but I have it." Immediately they recognize this is something that really exists in me. And that knowledge that you say, "Oh, at least there is a name for something. And now I can identify that something, so I can move forward with that something." So it's not anymore a ghost or that mice that is biting all the wires, because you could say, "Oh, I find where is the mouse."
We have mice, we
Yes.
know. Right, now we can do something about it.
Now we need to act according to that, yes.
Is the Hispanic community as a whole, and it's a generalization I know, but are they apt to seek help for an issue like this, especially in America with the climate that exists now around immigration, which is tough?
For me, I would say no.
Mm-hmm.
And I can talk about my own family. I mean, addressing some of these issues, we just don't do that. And I don't know, I think
now, is
there
that
may
cultural, do you think?
I was just going to say, I think this is a cultural thing, because even today, we don't talk about going to counseling, or, you don't talk about these things. You don't talk about how things affect you, and you just don't deal with that. And that's why, as a kid, we just literally, one day here, the next day, and then you have to just do it. But the current climate, when we talk about immigration, it's not all that friendly. So I'm not sure how willing people will be to perhaps address the issue. I can talk about when I think about something like migrant workers and the needs that particular community has, they don't necessarily go out to the community and say, "We need help." They're pretty much in the shadows.
And trying to stay in the shadows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So an issue like this, yes, people may identify with it, and I don't know how receptive or how the outreach is going to be, what kind of outreach we should be doing. But I think the first step, very important, is to talk about it and bring it to light.
And naming it has seemed to be really important too. Mm-hmm. Is this officially recognized as a symptom or anything like that? Mm-hmm. Is there I read online something that it's also referred to as the Ulysses syndrome, Gerry?
Yeah, it is recognized, although New York State does not officially recognize it, but there's been a lot of research on it. In Barcelona, Spain was one of the first researchers in this, and I think that one of the things that Monica was saying is that there's actually a fear among some, we discovered among some Hispanics, that if they even talk about it and maybe go to one of the talks that Maria Elena does, that they might even think that immigration people might be waiting to capture them if they just go out because they know that. And so that's why there's a big fear issue.
Well, Gerry, we're going to talk to you and Maria Elena when we come back about what people can do about migratory mourning. I know you guys have some workshops and things that you're working on. This is Kingston Now. We'll be back in a moment to wrap things up. You're watching Kingston Now, and we've been talking about migratory mourning and the impact it has on the immigrant community in the country as a whole. And now we're going to talk about the impact it has locally here in Kingston. Have you guys been out in the community here in Kingston talking about this? Maria?
Yes, we start our free talks cycle in the Kingston Public Library. And what Gerry said before is something that we are also facing now. People is very afraid of coming out. Not because they don't want to talk about this, it's just because they don't know who is talking about this. And I understand that there are some things happening around that people doesn't feel safe, and this is one of the issues of the migratory mourning, that you lose your sense of stability or security or whatever it is. But we started doing the free talks here. Thanks to the Hispanic Coalition also, we will start on January doing the free talks in Long Island in the Brentwood Public Library. We are now getting in touch with the Poughkeepsie Library, and I think in Albany also, yes, in the public library in Albany. So we really want to move as many places we can.
Now, you and Gerry together have come up with a workshop, or some workshops. Can you tell me, Gerry, how that's going to work, what the focus of the workshop is?
I can do that, but actually, Elena was the one who came up with it, so
okay.
Perhaps maybe she...
Absolutely.
She may be better.
I know you guys are working together
we are
on
working
it.
together,
so,
but it was more her development.
Yeah, well, the idea first of all with the talk is to sensitize people to identify this and to be aware of the issue. Of course, when you have the issue, you say, and now what we do with that? Because in the talk, you cannot after the talk, you cannot handle that. And if there is time, I would like Monica to share what she experienced in the talk, because it was amazing. So after that, people say like, okay, you give me this. And now it's like when you have a baby, I have the baby, but I don't know how to change the diapers. I don't know how to prepare the bottle. So I need to learn what to do with that baby. So that's what we wanted to do in the workshop, to give some tools, some personal growth tools to the people to handle let's say in a very standard way, how to deal with the stress, how to deal with those missing things, how to face the pain, because one of the part of those things is that we don't want to see the pain. If I don't see the pain, I'm not suffering. But the pain is growing. So we need to embrace the pain and learn how to work with that, how to understand the dynamics of the psychosocial dynamics of crisis and changes, because this is the amazing part of that, how to face and how to overcome and really say, well, I'm an immigrant, I am now in the United States, I can conceal my past with my present. Now I can fully integrate into the society without losing my identity. That's the main goal of the workshops.
And are you going to schedule them? Or will people be able to find them? Is there information online for when they're going to be happening?
Yes, we don't still have a definite date for that, but those workshops are planning to be in 4 different sessions, separated by 2 weeks each, because people need to work on that, to elaborate all those things. And I think that in Long Island maybe it will be around spring next year, the first workshops, and we are still planning to do it here in Kingston and Albany and whatever.
And we're doing them around the Hudson Valley and in the more deeply into the New York City area, because we're looking at places where the migratory issue is an issue. Parts of Long Island, it's a big issue. In the Hudson Valley, the Hispanics is the fastest growing segment of the population. So we're choosing them, and people who find this interesting can just be in touch with Maria Elena if they want to have one of these scheduled. Absolutely. And
Monica, the Hispanic Coalition is also going to support these workshops?
Absolutely, yes, definitely. We also have the information on migratory mourning and contact information on our website. We have a page dedicated to Migratory Mourning, so folks can also get information there.
Now we've done this program entirely in English. Maria Elena, perhaps you want to address some of the audience who might be Spanish and only Spanish speaking about what this is about and what they can do for help.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, and also I feel more comfortable in Spanish. I'm still dealing with the English, as you may know. Bueno, yo quiero invitar a toda la comunidad hispana porque estamos todos juntos en esto, estamos todos juntos en este país. Muchas veces podemos sentir un poco de vergüenza o no sabemos cómo identificarlo o, en fin, que estamos todos contribuyendo a crear una mejor sociedad para todos porque todos vamos a ser beneficiados y creo que la Hispanic Coalition está brindando un montón de oportunidades para que toda la comunidad hispana realmente se pueda acercar. Así que esperamos que se acerquen, que nos llamen, que visiten la web o que quizás también puedan ver nuestra fanpage en Facebook y pues nada, los esperamos.
That's terrific. That's it for this week's show. We'd like to thank Gerry Harrington, Maria Elena Ferrar, and Monica Arias Miranda for joining us. You can keep up with Migratory Mourning and the efforts of the Hispanic Coalition of New York at hcnewyork.com, and you can find them, as Maria Elena said, on Facebook. For Kingston Now, I'm Jimmy Buff. We'll see you next time.